Welcome to the Good Old Football Podcast. I am your host, your friend, your buddy, your pal, Matt Edwards. That's Auto Magic bringing us in as they always do. What a fun time it is to be alive in the world, right? Ravens are the darlings of the league right now, and they should be. They've earned that a little bit. It was an excellent NFL weekend. The Browns apparently saved their season. You can do that when you go 3-6. You got one more win than the Dolphins, sure, but all is saved now, right? Steelers-Browns on Thursday night. Of course, I'm looking forward to that. Talk about that more in a minute. As a Bengals fan, that game is always pure torture, especially this year when you know that both of them are far better than anything Cincinnati's come close to putting on the field. I am just back from South Florida over the weekend. I was down in the Keys, Key West. I don't know the appropriate thing to... I was in Key West, but you go through a lot of keys, and I feel like the other keys get ignored a little bit. We did try to record some stuff down there. The audio quality, shockingly, was not great when you have 1 million drunk people and a bunch of boats around. It just isn't great for recording sounds and whatnot. The trip itself, great though. People down there didn't care as much about football as we do here in the north. I guess when it's 80 and sunny in November and you're right there beside the water, it's difficult to get jacked up about Ryan Fitzpatrick and Brian Hoyer playing. But hey, to each their own. My flight down there was... I've told this story to a few people now. My flight down there was just an experience. We'll call it that. I was in line to board. First of all, I knew I was in for something because when I was in line to get on the plane, there were people in front of me, a group of 3, and they were sneaking hits of their vape right there in front of God and everyone else before we get on the plane. I think they would kick you off the plane if they caught you doing that, but it was worth it to them to risk. They got it on Snapchat and everything. Bunch of outlaws. I was immersed. So on my flight, I was sitting among a family of 7 individuals, I think 3 of them kids, and then I don't know what the rest were. But they were passing around. They didn't have a vape. They were passing around bags full of lunch meat on a flight amongst other people and then just shoveling scoops of lunch meat with their hands, with their bare hands, just putting them in their mouth. And it was something to see. I was sitting beside this 10-year-old kid. The kid was so sick. He's sniffling and coughing, hacking. I felt bad for him. Like, you don't want to sit beside anyone who's sick, but at least a kid, he didn't have a choice, right? Like, his parents should have taken him to the hospital. Instead, they had decided they had spent the money. He was gone, man. So that's what they did. Pack your bags, Billy. But then Billy's dad fell asleep. He was on the other side of me. So Billy's in the middle. I'm in the window seat. Billy's dad's in the aisle. And I don't know if his name is Billy, by the way. I highly doubt it was. But Billy's dad wakes himself up with this gigantic elephant snoring sound. And as soon as his dad wakes up, not as soon, but no more than 15 seconds after his dad wakes up, he reaches in his bag and he has a Tupperware container full of tuna fish, just tuna, that he starts shoveling in his mouth. And we're 90 minutes into the flight at this point, so he's had this tuna hanging around. Everyone can smell it, by the way, right? Like, before he takes a bite, everyone smells it. And presumably, this had not been refrigerated for at least 4 hours. And it was homemade. It's not like he got it at the airport. But anyways, his dad later just walking up and down the aisle talking to people. I saw his wife staring at him, just a look that it takes years of hatred to accumulate. Just, he's got on her nerves so many times. And now he just can't sit still for this flight. His poor sick kids over there. While he was up and talking, by the way, so he's going up and down the aisles talking to people. His sick kid, Billy, we've named him, just kind of rolled. He was asleep. He kept falling asleep and just kind of, he's probably like 10, and just kind of like rolled onto my shoulder. And that's a lose-lose, right? Because A, I don't want any stranger laying on me, let alone a sick one. But at the same time, I don't want to be mean to this kid. He's already got a lack of parental adult help in his life. It's not his fault he had to get on the plane. So needless to say, the flight down there, not ideal. But what are you going to, as long as you don't, end up in a field somewhere, it's a okay flight, I guess. But the thing was the bags of meat and the tuna. Everything else is just extra. But I couldn't believe they had bags of lunch meat and then tuna. And some people have pointed out to me, well, maybe they're on the keto diet. Good for them. Maybe try being a courteous human being. That could be a diet too. Don't bring tuna on the plane. But all right, now that I've got that off my chest, thanks for tuning in to the Good Old Football Podcast. Once again, I will say that. The bags of cold cuts didn't bother me as much as I just could not believe that I was witnessing what was happening. I mean, this was a 2.5-hour flight. It's not like we were flying international. I mean, I like most people, but some of you got to try harder. Anyways, the Bengals still bad. Still B-A-D bad. They've now lost, I was looking at this, they've lost 16 of their last 17 games dating back to last year. I mean, that's a brutal stretch. They've only scored more than 20 points in a game once this year. On Sunday, Lamar Jackson, I mean, it felt like a cruel prank, him being on the same field with them, borderline bullying. And then on the other side, it's hard to get a gauge on Ryan Finley at this point, right? I mean, he started his first game for the Bengals on Sunday, and no one is succeeding with that roster right now. I don't care who it is. No one, bring back Joe Montana, Johnny Unitas, trade Brady down. No one's working with that roster right now. Now, could they do better than what Andy Dalton and Ryan Finley have done? Sure. But no one's winning consistently with that roster. And there's a lot of call for Joe Burrow, the LSU quarterback, to transfer from Ohio State. By the way, it's Burrow. Joe Burrow, no S, not Joe Burrow. Save yourself the letter, just Joe Burrow. Let's get his name right before we start deciding where he's going to go for the next, presumably, 8, 10, 12 years of his life. But even it doesn't matter who they bring in. I mean, they're so depleted right now that I'm going to feel if they don't take Chase Young and they do go quarterback, I mean, I'm just going to feel bad for the situation because they've got to load guys up around him, really in front of him. The offensive line, like I've said, you could find 5 guys at an IHOP who could do just as well on the offensive line for Cincinnati. So they're 0-9. That's fun. It's a good place to be. Anyway, Steelers, Browns, the rest of the AFC North, at least 2/3 of the rest of the AFC North, getting together on Thursday night. I love when that happens, when two teams I'm very interested in play on that national primetime stage, so everyone can get involved. I love the terms and phrases because I talked earlier how people like to say the Browns saved their season, and we don't really know that until down the road when the season's over. But this is maybe the game that you look at that you say it could propel them to go on and catapult themselves down the road into the playoffs potentially, because with Pittsburgh being right there, it's going to count more like 1.5. That said, if you can't go into your own house and beat Mason Rudolph in primetime in November, then maybe you don't deserve to be a wild card team anyways, right? I mean, that's the thing. September, October are over. We already knew the Browns roster was absolutely loaded. Now let's see how they gel as a team, and we're to the point now where they should be there. They got the win over the Bills on Sunday, so getting closer, maybe, but at this point, you've got to win these type of games. Tell you what, man, it's going to be fun in Ohio. It's been a long time since both the Browns and Steelers were, right now, they're kind of like that second/third tier type of relevant in the AFC, where it actually matters. There's going to be some bar fights up and down the Ohio-Pennsylvania border on Thursday night. I can guarantee you that. Cops in Youngstown, Ohio, going to be working overtime. I mean, the amounts of fights that every Ohioan has seen that started over a football game is absolutely phenomenal, by the way. And I'm sure this is the case throughout certain areas of the country. Certain places, they don't care quite as much, but that's their loss. And you know who the worst guy is? I've always said this. The guy that I'm the one who wants to hit, and I'm a pretty calm guy. You heard how nice I was to that kid on the flight. But the guy that I always just want to knock his teeth out is the guy who has no dog in the fight, but roots for the team that you are rooting against. In other words, if you're watching Browns Steelers on Thursday night and you're a Browns fan and you've got a cousin's boyfriend over and he doesn't care about the NFL, but he decides he's going to cheer for the Steelers just to get under your skin, good God, do I hate that guy. And it's not just that. That's his personality. That's who he is as a person. He wants to be obnoxious. By the way, it's always a guy. Women have better things to do than this. I hate that guy so much. That's his idea of being funny. It's just being obnoxious. He's a troll in real life. People forget, before Twitter and Facebook and all that junk, there used to be real life trolls, and they would do things like this. I didn't see, like I said, I was in Florida. I've said that 1,000 times now. I didn't see if Jets and Giants got rowdy at all over the weekend because, those aren't really New York City people as much as they are kind of the suburbs, New Jersey, Connecticut people. I wasn't here, but you can't do that as much as it used to either, because now everyone does have cell phones. You fight someone over a game, which you shouldn't be doing, but if you do, and we all have our moments that we regret, people record it, you go viral, you get fired from your job, your wife leaves you. I mean, basically what happens there is people in your everyday life see what a psycho you are and suddenly don't feel safe knowing you broke a guy's jaw because you guys disagreed over a 3rd and 14 pass interference call. I almost had that happen in Cleveland once. Whenever the Cavs won the title, what was that, 2016, I was up there for Game 5, which was the one that they ended up winning, and I was outside. So we were outside, my friend Nate and I, and LeBron clearly, they were showing it on like a jumbo screen out there because I think that was in Golden State. I'm pretty sure. So we were outside, and no, you know what? I do think the game was in Cleveland. We were just too poor to get tickets, so we just went up there to party and watch outside. Anyways, we're outside watching on a jumbotron because I saw LaShawn McCoy going to the game, and I don't think LaShawn McCoy would have came just to hang out and watch outside. We're outside watching on a jumbotron, and LeBron commits a foul that's clearly a foul. And I look at my friend Nate, because everyone kind of groans, because it was down the stretch. And I look at Nate, and I was shrugged. And I was like, yeah, it was a foul. What are you going to do? Those happen. And there were like these 5 guys in front of us just chiefing away cigarettes. You know how they like to do. All my favorite people go into big crowds and then smoke their Marlboros. But the guy turns around and looks at me. I've got Cavs gear on, right? I'm rooting for LeBron. And the guy turns around and looks at me and dead serious goes, I'll slap the shit out of you. Just for agreeing that LeBron obviously committed a foul in that situation. These are the people who are going to be out and about on Thursday night rooting for the Browns and Steelers. And that's why things are going to get wild. I didn't say anything to the guy. There were like 5 of them. And I'm not a fighter. You guys know that. I'm a lover. So anyways, that's that story. 3 things that I want to talk about this week.
We've got to be the dumbest team in America in terms of playing the game. I apologize for that, but that's the best we can do. That's a sad product.
All right, first off, Phillip Rivers, I'm done with it, not a Hall of Fame player. I'm watching the end of that game on Thursday night, Raiders-Chargers, and he goes 0 for 7 once he gets the ball back. And if you look at it, why are so many people so certain this guy is a Hall of Fame guy? He's made the play. Listen to this. I couldn't believe this when I looked this up. He's made the playoffs twice in the last 9 years. Twice. You know who's made it more than that? Andy Dalton. He's actually made it double that, +1. I mean, he's piled up some numbers, but since LaDainian Tomlinson, his Hall of Fame running back, left, he's had 2 playoff wins. 2 playoff wins. And here's another thing I always say with Hall of Fame players who have the ball in their hands, like, linemen and linebackers and that stuff, those guys, they don't have as many chances to make the big plays that you're going to see for years and years to come. Some of them do, and they should. But as a quarterback, you have to have those plays to be legendary. Think right now, when is Phillip Rivers' signature moment? He doesn't have one, and he's been great. He's racked up numbers. He's made a lot of children. He wears cool bolo ties, but he's been to 1 AFC championship. He's an excellent NFL quarterback, but he's going to be one of those, when NFL Network does their top 10 shows and they do like top 10 quarterbacks not in the Hall of Fame, Phillip Rivers should be in the top 5 on that show. He should not be in Canton. I'm done with him. Thing number 2. So we're speaking of the Chargers, and we'll speak more about them. Earlier this week, their owner kind of denied the report, suggesting that they might move over to London to be the first NFL franchise to do that, which of course has been speculated about for quite a while. Here's my question. If you move a team to London, what players and coaches are going to want to go live and work in London for half of the year? And if you're a coach, maybe a little bit more than that, because I'm talking about flying and how miserable it is. If you've flown international, which I think I've only done once, you feel like trash for about 48 hours afterward. Now imagine being a professional athlete who for a living beats the hell out of you and a bunch of other guys 16 times a year. But in addition to doing that, you're going to have to fly internationally 8 times a year in a 4-month span. I know I got kind of wordy there, but that's the point alone. 8 times a year you're flying internationally in a 4-month span in a sport where taking care of your body is one of the most important things. Now, and I don't know how they're going to make this fair, but maybe London gets a 10, maybe 12 games at home. But then, how is that? You got to have competitive balance here. The tolls that these guys take on their bodies, I mean, these are grizzly bears smashing into each other, and you cannot fly international more than once in a month and not feel like you've been attacked by wolves. And maybe they'll figure out a way. If you got a way that you think it'll work, let me know. but I have no idea. And we forget so many NFL guys. That's the thing about the players. I mean, maybe you'll find some coaches who would be interesting, and living in London for a while. But we forget that the majority of the NFL guys, they're playing like 2, 3, 4 years in the league. That's where your depth guys come in. Who's going to want to sign there as a free agent? It's just not going to work. We got to put that bad boy to bed, baby. I'm sick of that. Let's get over it. Dean Spanos, I think it was, had some fun comments on that. He was a little fired up. A little bit of R-rated language we don't use here on the Good Old Football Podcast. We are a family-friendly show. And now thing number 3. This is something I've talked about on here, and I continue to have to talk about. Guys, girls, everyone, no one wants to hear about your fantasy team, especially outside of your own fantasy league. I think this is like the 2019 version of telling your coworkers how your children did at their weekend soccer matches when they're 7 and 8. And look, your family definitely wants to hear that. They love it. But no one else is really that interested. And every time you go to work or hang out with your friends who aren't in your league and do that, here's what it sounds like. Here is what it sounds like when you explain your team to people and then expect them to care.
Tyler Boyd can't drop. Colin Coop can't drop. Devonta
Who's
Freeman.
Colin Coop?
He's that number 1 wide receiver. Cooper Kupp. He's the number 1 wide receiver, isn't he? Greg's early in. I can't drop him. I got a D this week. I don't even want to look why I got a D. I am Mr. Most Points in that league, too.
Is that who you want to be? You want to sound like a fool to your friends and loved ones? Don't do it. Leave your coworkers alone. Get the job done. Go home early. Anyways, look, this episode is going to be a little bit shorter this week. I'm not done yet. But like I said, I was in Key West all weekend, so I didn't have as much time to put a full episode together as I usually do. I apologize for that. And this is also being recorded before this huge 49ers-Seahawks game tonight, so hopefully nothing insane happens there. But the fact of the matter is I spent the last 3 days in Florida. I have 1 million things to do tonight, so I didn't want to do it at midnight like I usually do. That'll be a fun game. My boy George Kittle is out, going to kill my fantasy team. I know you guys are very interested in the fact that my fantasy team is hurting because George Kittle's out. Bothers you all very much, I am quite certain. That'll be fun, though. We'll see how real the Niners are. The Seahawks have always had that tendency. I don't know why I'm talking about this. This comes out after the game's over. I'm doing nothing but making myself potentially sound like an idiot right now. Which, if you want to, go down that road, I've certainly done that on this podcast pretty much every single week. And, what are you going to do about it? The Patriots were off this week, so that's fun. Going to be, how about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? Or do we go, how about the Tennessee Titans and Ryan Tannehill? Who saw that coming? A Ryan Tannehill defeat of Patrick Mahomes? That's why I love the NFL, man. That's why I love it. I enjoy it. I have a good time with it. I got some other stuff I want to talk about. I wanted to talk about Chase Young a little bit this week. I think we'll do that next week. See what I had a topic that I wanted to talk about with him before he ended up getting suspended for just a ridiculous rule. You can't take out a loan, apparently, if you're in college, which a college athlete, I guess. I mean, just the absurdity of that stuff continues. I know this is an opinion we all share. Isn't that one of the crazy things? Like, we all agree this is absolute malarkey, and the NCAA is just like, yeah, we don't care what you think. We want to run this show how we want to run it, and we want to own these teenagers who make us billions and billions of dollars. I don't know what the explanation is for that or what how we solve that yet, but there are some people who have made some decisions in the NCAA that I hope to God just have to answer for their failures one day, because the way, the money that some of these guys, and it's not all of them, but a guy like Chase Young, who, by the way, is going to be a millionaire in 10 months, not even 10 months, 8 months anyways, and he can't take out a small loan to fly his girlfriend to the Rose Bowl. Stab me. I'm over it. Makes me not want to watch college football, but of course we're all going to continue to watch college football. I just wish we could, I wish we could pay the players directly. Can we do a GoFundMe for some of these guys? Goodness. All right, listen, a little shorter episode this week, only about 20 minutes long. What are you going to do about it? I had a little vacay. I still came in, still made the episode. Doing my best for you guys here. I appreciate you tuning in. If you want to follow along on Twitter, I am at Matt Edwards. That's MatteEdwards. Matt Edwards is my name. I don't exactly know how to spell it. I'll continue to work on that. Instagram, if you want to go there, you can go. I'm kind of sick of Instagram. I just don't need to see so many pictures anymore. And furthermore, if you like it, you can subscribe, you can rate, you can do anything to help me out. And that would be cool. If you don't like it, life goes on. I'll be fine. So anyways, it's a good old football podcast. Auto Magic playing us out. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Greg's early, and I can't drop him.